Welcome back to the channel, folks. Oh my gosh, can I just tell you how many really good reasons I came up with to not go live? And despite the irony of that statement and this, video title, like I literally was considering like maybe I just shouldn't do it. And it's not that I didn't want to, I just felt like there were so many reasons not to go live. But then I'm like, but you could just go live though. Like at the end of the day, it's like, but you could just do it though, and then everything would be fine. So that's where we landed. And so I'm so glad to be here. Like, even though it sounds like I'm not, I really am, because I realized that like I have to keep going. I have this momentum and I have, overthought things for so long, especially pertaining to like this channel and like all the stuff I want to talk about, all the conversations I feel like are missing or that don't get enough like weight on them. And so, yeah, I had to come through for myself and for you guys. I mean, not that anybody's out there like biting their nails waiting, but I'm so excited to talk about, let me calm down. So I'm like, okay, I'm so excited to talk about like how to do hard things, because even though some things are not really that hard, when we think about them a lot, like we make them hard in our minds. So it dawned on me like that I do that a lot. So I do it a lot in my life. Like I make things harder than they have to be, or I put a lot of sort of like importance on things that are not really that serious. And I'm like, I'm not the only one. And I talk to humans all the time and they have these same issues that I'm having. So I'm like, you know what? We need to talk about it, guys. We need to talk about it and we need to figure out how to help ourselves get past it. So I started this out like in true faith form. I started it out just sort of like thinking on paper, and then I started talking about it in my phone, like, and then I was like, there's got to be some science behind this. So then I started like, AIing it, like, okay, there's got to be some science behind why people do this, and so I gave it like my top fives, and then it gave me some information, and so that's what we're here today to discuss. So it's not like I'm an expert in this, it's just I'm an expert in what I experience because I do it all the time. But today I'm here to talk about like why we don't do what we say we're going to do, but from a scientific perspective, because like we never want to admit it, but motivation is not consistent enough to like help us. And you have to get things done anyway. So, I was curious about like why it is that we put things off, why it is that we don't do things when we say we're going to do them. And so I did some research and I'm here to let's like learn together. So again, I'm going to show you some things that I researched on the internet. But before we do that, I'm going to break down like my reasons why. So like, um, I think everybody has the experience of like having to do something or having something in their mind that they need to do and then not following through on it, or like coming up with the reasons not to do it, or like just sort of resistance, experiencing resistance around doing something that you need to do. And my thinking was, how do we get past that? Like, there's a bunch of things that we want to do, and that we, in order to move past our current like level of self, like we have to figure out how to do the stuff that we don't want to do. And then I was just like curious to myself, like I wonder how other people do this because I know how I do it. And then I'm like, okay, let's just have a conversation. Like I'm going to tell you sort of like why I don't want to do stuff when I just generally like I'm gonna tell you what the general reasons are, and then I'm gonna tell you how I move past it, and then we're gonna talk about like sort of the science, because I've learned a lot actually from just having these thoughts. So okay, so here's what the first thing is. I do this all the time, like, especially, I'll just be honest, especially with work. There's a lot of things that like I come on to like on a regular basis that, okay, this has to be done. This is my job. I have to do this, but I don't want to. And then there's a few things or tactics that I do that help me push past that. And I think all of us probably have those. I'm so curious to know yours. And if any of these jump out at you, please comment, right? And let me know like what you can identify with. And then if you identify with nothing, but you have tricks and tips, please share with the rest of us because I think we all need that type of information. We still have to do things that we don't want to do. And so if you have information that we can use, don't be stingy, don't be a gatekeeper. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with my like reasons why I don't want to do stuff sometimes. Like, so, okay, so I'm in the position of like, oh, okay, I have to do this thing and I don't want to. And so what are those reasons, right? Okay, these are like some of the top reasons. I'm not saying they're my absolute top 5, but I think they are generally because these are the reasons that I run into like all the time why I don't want to do stuff. So the reason number 1 is like it overwhelms me. Like a lot of times, probably I would say like 8 out of 10 times when, okay, I have to do something. It's like, okay, I have to do this thing. And I don't want to do it. It's because I'm overwhelmed. There's so many steps. There's like things that I haven't thought about yet that have to fit in here that I haven't, they're too complicated. It's like my brain just doesn't want to go through all that. Right. And it's just like, put this off. But a lot of times I can't put it off. I have to do it anyway. But that's like number 1. So, and I've heard this word before, but we're going to talk about a part of your body called your amygdala. It's a part of your brain, and it handles like threat responses. But I guess my amygdala is in overtime because it's always telling me that things are sort of like a threat, and it treats like tasks and projects like they're dangerous. So some of the things that I'm going to tell you, and I'll get into the science later, it's not just us being lazy or like not wanting to do it. It's our brain. It's the way that our body functions, and we're just reacting to that. So even having that information for me is helpful, and this is why I want these conversations to be talked about and thought about, and like just to have us know that like we're not alone, in that we don't just go through these things for no reason. Like we all probably can identify with these sorts of things, right? So, okay, the second reason that I normally don't want to do things is because, like, I'll just be honest, like sometimes I'll have a bad attitude about something and I'll just want to avoid it. Either I have a bad attitude about the thing itself that I have to do, or someone who is like attached or adjacent to the thing. So like if there's a person that like I don't necessarily want to engage with, or there's some sort of bad memory attached to this thing, like it was really hard the last time I did this, or one time, it was really hot outside and I had to do this thing, and like now I'm just remembering that time or that person or that like bad vibe. And that's number 2 reason why I don't necessarily want to do the stuff that I need to do. Reason number 3 is, and I mean, all of these things seem like, oh, I just don't feel like it, but that's like the first answer. And I beg us to push past that. Right. And then the fourth, the next reason, which is it the fourth? I don't know. I think it's the third. The next reason is kind of attached to the first one where I said overwhelm, but the next reason is like it is too complicated, and it could leave you, but not even just complicated and like, oh, it's overwhelming, but like complicated meaning there's too many things to navigate. It could be even emotionally connected, right? It's like a complex thing, like some situation that I have to like put myself beyond in order to, I have to take care of somebody's feelings, or there's so many moving parts. It requires so much deep thinking. It requires like a deeper self. It's like so much cognitive load that I just want to just bail out. And then The last reason is there's something more fun. Like I could do something that gives me more dopamine hits. I could do something that's like quicker, or I could just avoid it and be distracted. And a lot of times that is like procrastination. So I guess that's the reason. I guess that's like 4 and 5 because a lot of this stuff leads us to procrastinate and just say I'll do it later, but that doesn't really work. Like I mean, it works for a little while, but honestly, it most of the time makes things like harder. I don't like to do that. Like listen, I procrastinate just like the rest of us, but I really like to minimize that because there's just so much happening in my life that it costs me more to push something off than to just handle it, even if I have to charge through it and not sort of like just dislike it and go through it anyway. That's most of the time what I'll do. So now that I've told you all of the reasons why I don't want to do something, I'm going to tell you the science behind it, and then we can get into my workarounds. Okay. So, okay. This is another wonderful, what is this called? Slideshow that Notebook LM helped me to design. But it's like I love comic books. I love comic strips. And this is kind of like a comic strip version of us just going through the science of like doing the things that we don't want to do. So, mastering your mind, the Neuro Chronicles. This is so cute. So, this is like what I'm saying when we talk about like the amygdala. There's this response of like wanting to run away from things. And we already talked about this a little bit, but this is, this is where we are. It's either it comes from ancient times. It's like the less evolved version of us where we either want to fight, flight, or freeze. So even though we we live in a more modern time, our body and our brain still reacts like we're in caveman times. Like, so when we have things that are like on our mind or that we need to do, we think of them like they're predators. We think of them like they're villains, like the report that's due, or the thing that the phone call you're supposed to make, or the person that you need to tell, what your boundaries are. All of those things that you don't want to do, they become the enemy. Like this tiger in this comic strip here. It seems so like it seems like a predator. It seems like something's coming for you, and that's what your brain is telling you, that like you have to protect yourself from it. Even though it's not that serious, it's not something that's going to attack you and kill you. That's what your brain is telling you. So it's not our fault that we feel that way, that it's making us not want to do the thing, but that's just what our brain is telling us. So we all kind of have this in common, which is why our brain reacts the way that it does, which we'll get into later. But I just want to put that out there, that like it's not just you being lazy or not wanting to do something. It's just your brain has told your body, that your nervous system, that it's dangerous out there and you better run or freeze, or like do something to protect yourself. And then, so one thing that people rarely talk about is like the energy that is required to supply a thought or a demand or a task. And this kind of goes into some scientific terms, and I mean, like, I'm no expert on this, but the prefrontal cortex is like your executive control center. It's the thing that makes all your decisions. Where the the amygdala is like the thing that is like the sensor of danger. This is sort of like the decider. Like it's the prefrontal cortex is going to tell you what to do. So and it relies a lot on glucose. Now that is important to me because this is why your diet matters when you are going through these things, but we're not even going to go into that today. But like every choice you have to make is going to have a demand on the capacity you have. This is what I'm saying when I'm talking about energy, because rarely do we ever talk about how this sort of constant stress really takes its toll on our bodies and like on our lives. Like we don't have all of this um you know unlimited RAM. We don't have all this unlimited energy to be wasting on stuff, and especially when you're treating something with so much importance, like it matters so much, it's going to take some energy out of you, which is going to take something out of your body, right? And so we have to be cognizant of that when we're talking about like what we're giving, especially when it's not that important. Some of this stuff is just not that serious. But this is what leads to procrastination, doing things impulsively, like impulsively shopping. I'm guilty of that. Or just like making things more exaggerated. You got to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, where's my energy going? Right? Is it going towards this sort of villain, this anxiety, or like, is it that serious? Like you have to really think about like your brain is doing this because it's trying to protect you. So, oh, thank you so much. Oh, Gwendolyn, how are you? I remember she says, how are you and your sister? Good knowing you. So have great topics. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're doing well. We just brought our podcast back last week and we're talking about Nature Boy. So make sure you take take a minute and tune in next week because we're talking about this Nature Boy thing. It's crazy. Yeah. But it's so good to hear from you. We're doing well. We've always been doing well, but I had to take a little bit of a hiatus because I had a baby last year and he's like 1 now. So yeah, we just kind of like took a pause, but we're back now. Okay, so yeah, that the villain of like your energy, and we call it the energy vampire. It's the decision fatigue. It's telling you that there's a villain around and that you need to protect yourself. And that's where we get to procrastinating, right? So, okay. This is a really good one. The gravity of the morning. Can I just tell you sometimes, and I have a pretty good life set up for myself, but sometimes when the morning comes and I'm thinking about all the things that I have to do during the day, oh my gosh, it just seems so overwhelming. And how am I going to get through all this stuff? I don't ever question like how am I going to get through it, but sometimes I let this sort of negative mindset take me over in the morning. But I should be taking advantage of the fact that like my brain's glucose and cognitive reserves are highest in the morning. So I need to really just hit the ground running in the morning, pretty much. But that can be challenging. You have to kind of figure that out for yourself because here's what I normally do. I sometimes doom scroll in the morning or I'll watch the news. Now, man, those of us who are from a different demographic, not demographic, but like a different age range, or what is it called, generation. I don't know if it was just our generation or what, but I remember like our parents would always watch the news and they would tell us how important it was to be informed and to make sure you know what's happening. So watching the news was sort of like a part of our morning, getting up in the morning, and I still kind of do that. And it's something that's, I won't say it's like ingrained in me because I have figured out my way past it, but it's still a comfort thing where I wake up in the morning and I just want to turn on the news. I don't necessarily do it all the time, but it makes me comfortable when the news is playing in the background and I'm like getting ready for the day. I really don't know I think it comes from my childhood and like my mom having done that, but nowadays with all the social media and all the apps and stuff on our phone, it's really easy to turn over, pick up your phone and see like what emails you got, what's going on social media, sort of like introducing you into the day. But doom scrolling, and they call it doom scrolling. It's interesting because I don't ever pick up my phone thinking to myself, I'm going to doom scroll. It's just like, let me see what's going on. Right. And so sure, the platforms have made it so that, it's more likely that we're going to stay on their platform. Like they have people working on these are $billion entities, and they've studied us and how we operate. So they want to keep us on their platform. They've put things on their platform that help us be addicted and keep, scrolling. But that's rarely what we ever like are walking into. We're thinking like, let me just see what's happening. Like my friends are on this. My friends are on this platform. Let me just, or the people that the things that I care about, the things that are happening in the world. I'm gonna find that out when I open this app. Or let's just see what's new, right? That's really the one that I can identify with. Like, let's just see what's happening. Let's just see what's new out there. And then 20 minutes later, you're still scrolling, and they call it doom scrolling. I don't necessarily feel like I've doom scrolled every time I check certain apps. So, maybe it is doom, scrolling, but yeah, anyway. That can be really a time suck. So the platforms though are designed to be dopamine driven. So we have to be acknowledged, like we have to acknowledge that because it is actually happening. And if we don't acknowledge it, then we're susceptible to being taken advantage of. Like people are out here really making a lot of money on us just falling into their traps. So yeah, the anatomy of a hijack. And this is, I guess, what I was just talking about because we're just writing or sharing or posting or looking to see what is going to give us that dopamine ding. Well, and I don't ever really look at it like that either, necessarily. Like, sure, I want to go on social media or I want to like look at an app to get something out of it, but I don't necessarily even think about it like it's feeding my dopamine addiction or anything like that. I just go along with it. But the anticipation of like the excitement that I feel, or I won't even know if it was really I don't even know if it's really accurate to call it excitement. It's more like anticipation, like the slide said. It's like the anticipation that one can feel. Oh, there's someone driving in my neighborhood really loudly. The anticipation that I could feel while I'm picking up my phone, ready to click on the next thing, is probably more powerful than the dopamine that I get from actually seeing what things are that are there. But yeah, I always get whether I don't even know what I'm looking for sometimes. I just want to see what's there. So I don't even really know when the dopamine hit actually happens. I'm thinking of myself like some dopamine junkie, like ready for the hit. It's like that doesn't exist. Okay. Like we're just here trying to live our lives. I pay so much money for this phone and I'm going to use it. You know what I'm saying? Like I Google stuff, I look things up. And it's funny because like a lot of times I'm not looking for one particular app. I'm just in my mind, I have like 3 or 4 things that I'm going to click on. I'm like, okay, I'm going to check this app. I'm going to check my account. I'm going to check my email. I'm going to do this. It's like 4 things like loading, right? So I'm not thinking about, oh, I'm going to go and get it and get sucked into doom scrolling and get my dopamine hits. Like we're not thinking like that. It's just like how it happens. But then, yeah, I will say I've gotten caught before, and then 60 minutes later, I'm doing something that I never intended to do, and I still didn't check those things that I said I was going to check. But anyway, back to the paralysis paradox and the procrastination, because this is like the stuff of like why it's hard to do the things that we want to do. So right now we're just in the middle of like what happens when we pick up our phone. But really this is like happening all the time. So it's something that we probably need to really like have this hard conversation with ourselves about. Like, and I'm not taking myself out of this. Like obviously I'm right in the middle of it, but it's one of those things that it happens to all of us. And so in this slide, this guy has all of these things piled up on his desk that he needs to do. He has the weight of the fear of failure like wrapped around his leg, but he's organizing his spices in his drawer. And I think that's really funny because there's so many times where I'll do things that are just accessible to me because they're easy, they're right here, and I don't want to get to the hard stuff. I'm going to talk about what I do in that instance. So look, I do let myself fall into these levels of like, okay, I'm just going to do this thing because it's easy. And sometimes that can be helpful, but sometimes it can be distracting. and we're not even talking about right now like the dopamine stuff and like scrolling or whatever. It's like even at work, I'll opt out of doing like a hard report or like, okay, I need to do this research to get this work done. um I'll opt out of that and just keep checking my email, or like I'll go and like do something easy because it's right there, because it's quick, because I can get this done in 10 minutes and that other thing is going to take me God knows how long. Like it could be anywhere from, an hour to 3 hours trying to like break something down and report it out or like analyze some data. Oh, and it's not like I don't enjoy those things. Sometimes I do if I'm interested, but like other times when it's a part of your job to do and you don't really want to do it, or like I said, there's a lot of reasons why you don't want to do stuff. One of those reasons pop up and it's like, you'll do anything. You'll do anything rather than to get really into like what you're supposed to be doing. But I just, one of the things that I do want to point out is like a lot of times we blame ourselves and we say we're lazy, we don't have the willpower, or we don't have what it takes. And it's just not the case. Like I said, our brains are telling us that it's dangerous. Like, so even on top of the fact that you don't want to do it, it's not just that. If there's a reason you don't want to do it, it's because your brain is trying to protect your nervous system, right? And like if you get into the thing and it's really hard and you feel like you could fail at it, or you don't you're not going to get the answer that you needed, or that you could waste time, right? Like, so there's plenty of times where I embark on something and I didn't finish it, and I feel like, wow, should I just have done something that I could finish? But you have to give yourself credit for the path you went down. But this is why I do a lot of like time tracking. So for me, it's not necessarily about like, sure, I'm looking for an outcome. And to that end, I'll only spend a certain amount of time on certain things. Like sometimes I'll just give myself a time limit. Like, okay, we're going to do this for 40 minutes hard. And then we're going to stop. And then wherever we are, that's where we are. And that's what we could get. And we're not going further than that, because especially at work, like people will waste your time. They will ask you questions that either they could figure out themselves, or they'll act like you're the guru of the world. And so for those things, sometimes you have to exercise your boundaries and say, you know what, I'm going to spend a good 40 to 45 minutes on this, and that's enough time, or less. Okay. And that's enough time to say I tried, and whatever. And you know what? And I'm going to do my due diligence in that time. Whatever I come up with in that 40 to 45 minutes is enough, because it's more than they did. I guarantee you. I will say I guarantee you, but I'm pretty, comfortable with that wager. I'll say, in the idea that like you're giving yourself a time limit, you're going to come out of that with some sort of resolve. There is a law, I want to say it's the what is it? It's the Pareto's principle. I always mix these two things up. There's the Pareto's principle and there's the I think it's the Pareto's principle or Pareto's law. I can't remember. But there's this sentiment that says that whatever time you decide to spend on something is the time it will take. So if you say it's going to take me 3 weeks to get this report together, it's going to take you 3 weeks. If you say that I'm going to do this in 3 hours, then it's going to take you 3 hours. And both are true. So whether you decide that you are going to do it quickly or you're going to take a long time, like that's what it is. Okay, wait, no, it's not the right thing. It's not Pareto's principle. Pareto's principle, or the 80-20 rule, it's Parkinson's law. That's what I'm thinking of. Let's look up Parkinson's law. This is the great thing about the internet. I'm looking it up right now. So Parkinson's law, the work expands to fill the time available for its completion. That's what I'm thinking of. So when you tell yourself it's going to take 3 hours, it's going to take 3 hours. When you tell yourself it's going to take 3 weeks, you're probably going to waste a lot more time than needs to be taken. And you're going to add some pressure. And then when 3 weeks comes, like you will have done, it will have taken you that long because that's what you said. So yeah. Okay. Oh, Gwendolyn says, I don't feel so bad. I'm retired. I thought it was me not starting or finishing projects. Also, daily tasks are incomplete. Look, I feel like this. We don't give ourselves enough credit for the daily like work that is required to just maintain our lives. Now, granted, 50 or 60 years ago, things were a lot harder to keep up with, like maybe even laundry. Like maybe you didn't have a laundry, like a washer and dryer in your house 50 or 60 years ago. Maybe you didn't have a microwave. Maybe you didn't have an air fryer, 50 or 60 years ago. So like we do have some modern conveniences, but at the same time, we have a lot more distraction. And I think we put a lot more pressure on ourselves to be on top of everything because we have access. We have access to information with the internet. We have access to people with our phones and other devices. So it's like we feel like we need to keep up with everything. And there's a lot of pressure. And we don't give ourselves like the real like reward of like when we do something right. We don't give ourselves the real understanding that it takes, a few hours to get the laundry done. It takes a lot of energy to, get your family taken care of. It's still, it takes some time to get dinner on the table. It takes some time to like get the house together and organize things. I think we spend a lot of time like, or we spend a lot of our energy sort of like beating ourselves up about all the stuff we could have gotten done. We don't give ourselves enough credit for all of the things that we're doing on a regular basis, if not daily basis, to just keep things moving. So I hope, Gwendolyn, that you're giving yourself some credit for all the things that you're getting done well. Because I mean, look, we're all in this boat together. I don't always do that either, but I make it a point to like say to myself, like, okay, what did I get done today? What could I give myself credit for? Because that also matters. Right. Okay. So the diagnostic matrix, why we avoid work. We're not going to go into these slides like super, super detailed, but it's just really for me to help me to like keep on track and speak to the things that I wanted to speak to. I think that this is sort of what I was just talking about. We all think, oh, I just need to organize my time better and I just need to get what I need to like to stay on track. And I think it's a misbelief. I think it's like of course, like a myth. I think we're like this specific life that we're engaging with right now, there is not a blueprint and there's not a success rate that's like available to us. I don't, we can't really, we're making assumptions here. When we look on the internet and people are on vacation, that doesn't mean they have all their responsibilities taken care of. You know what I'm saying? When we look on the internet and somebody's like laughing or out to dinner, that doesn't mean that their house is clean. That doesn't mean that their paperwork with the, government is up to date. We're just assuming based on our own thoughts and our own principles for ourselves that, oh, this person must have it all together. Same thing when somebody like looks a certain way, we kind of like make these assumptions that like they have it all together. Or even when somebody has like is like obviously wealthy, we assume that like they're better off, and that's not really the case. A lot of these people who are financially, you know or what we considered or what we've assumed that they have financially, they don't necessarily have that spiritually rich, right? Like they're not necessarily spiritually rich. They're not necessarily, you know, morally rich. They're not necessarily valuing the same things that we're valuing. And if they are, that's great. I'm just saying we're making a lot of assumptions, and our belief is that we need to have things all running together smoothly, and like that's the testament of a good citizen or something. And I don't think that anyone has done a recent study on what that actually is, what's required of us, because there's a lot. It's like socially, the demands are heavy to keep up with everybody, especially now we have access to all these people and we can see them on our timelines and we can see their kids growing up. There's no way you could check in on everybody all the time and be good at your job and, do all the things that are important to you. And I would even jump out there and say there's a lot of things that we obligate ourselves to that are not necessarily serving us in this season. I said it. I said it. I think we have to do a regular audit and really understand, like, why am I doing this? Why am I letting this take up my, you know, 90 minutes every other week? I'm just making this up, but I'm just saying, like, why am I attending this thing on a regular basis? Why am I letting this person have my time? Whenever this person calls me and I answer and I leave that phone call feeling drained, why am I picking up again? Right? Like it's like we're going through these emotions. We haven't assessed the amount of time, energy, resources that we are like giving away, and we haven't assessed what is important to us and whether our priorities are being met, or like we're getting what we need out of situations. We're just so, giving and generous. And look, I'm not out here trying to make people be less generous, because I mean, I like being generous and I benefit from those who are generous to me in terms of like their time and their love and their just like contributions to society. So I'm not saying that you should stop doing all of that. I'm just saying, if you're not getting your needs met, and you're sort of like, I'm just saying we should assess. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying we should assess, what are we spending our time, our energy, and our other resources on, and are we getting the returns on that? Is society, or is our community, is our family getting the returns on that? And if not, maybe some adjustments can be made. It's like you got to pull out of every obligation, but it's just like, you should be thinking about that. We should all be thinking about that. You know what I'm saying? It's not just about us, I need to organize my time better so I can be here for everybody in the community. You know what I'm saying? 30 people got you on speed dial. That's probably not going to be good for your mental health. So just an assessment, a check-in is helpful. But not trying to, I'm not out here advocating for ruining relationships either. So, take that with a grain of salt. But a lot of times we beat ourselves up, is my point. And then we're like, avoiding other things. We're doing other things that might be unhealthy to us, just trying to keep up with the things that we think we should be keeping up with. One of them is seeking that immediate mood repair, i.e. the dopamine that we talked about with the social media hits. And then, leads to other procrastination. And then what it does is later we start to feel this sort of like existential dread of like, oh, I never get anything done. Well, you do get stuff done, and other people are benefiting from that, or no one is benefiting from it. But we have to be cognizant of like how we're spending that, because if we're causing ourselves this sort of like experience where we are in this mode of helplessness or hopelessness, then we really have to think about where our time is going and how we have the choice to decide like how we spend our resources. I like to think of my time like a budget. I'm not going to lie to you, because there was a time, especially like in my, I want to say early 20s, but I wasn't really making no money in my early 20s. In my mid 20s to early 30s, there was a time where I was out here on these streets spending money on just God knows what, spending my time on God knows what. And I was really mismanaging my money, right? I really think about my time like that now, like, got the money thing under control. In terms of my time though, I literally have to go back and like I call it a time budget. And I'm like, okay, because a lot of times I'll put all these things on my list, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And like thinking about, always, you're gonna hear me say this a lot, thinking about your time in a day. You have basically, like, if you wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, around 7:30, you have about 1,000 minutes until midnight, right? I'll be exact. At 7:20 a.m., you have 1,000 minutes. At 9 a.m., you have 900 minutes left until midnight. And I'm the dorkiest kind of dork where I've done this math and I go over and over and over it again. But like, you have about 1,000 minutes in a day. A lot of times you got 20 things on your list and you don't even got time for all that. Right. So right there and then, if you knew that going into the day, you would already understand that like your budget is off. It's the same thing that I would do in my early 20s and like my mid 20s, whatever. It's just like I would think I'm going to do all this stuff with this little check that I'm getting. And I mean, my check was low. Back in the day, man, I don't know how prices got so high, but I think I was making probably something like maybe like $1,200 a check in my mid 20s. And I just thought that was so much money. It's like, oh, my check come on Friday. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that with that little $1,200. Okay. It was so funny and it was so cute. Shout out to my mom for paying all the bills that I didn't, that I didn't get to with this mentality. But um I just want to say that like we're doing that. A lot of us are doing that with our time. We're saying we're doing what I was doing in my 20s. We're saying like, oh, I'm gonna do this when I get this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. You think about it, you got 1,000 minutes. If you wake up at 7:20 in the morning, you got 1,000 minutes until midnight strikes. Now, a lot of times you don't have that much energy to just last you 1,000 minutes. You don't have 1,000 minutes worth of energy, but you got all this stuff on your list, like you got all these resources, right? And if you knew at the beginning of the day, if you just took 5 or 10 or 15 minutes to write down all the stuff you want to get done, and then just like quickly jot out like the estimates. I'm like, okay, this is gonna take 30 minutes, this is gonna take 20 minutes, this is gonna take 45 minutes. Oh yeah, then I gotta travel there, then I gotta eat. Right. And you're not even putting in like the unmentionables or the things that you can't predict, like the line was long or there was traffic or I was behind or I ran out of such and such, so I had to go over here to the CVS. You're not even adding in all that stuff. If you actually did that and you could see that like, oh, I have all these things on my list that actually cost 1,500 minutes, that would actually help us, because we would see right then and there that like, oh, I have 1,500 minutes worth of stuff to do, but I actually only have 1,000 minutes and I can't even really, use all that time, because some of the stuff that, I didn't even wager in, like having a meal or, or showering or whatever, didn't even go on the list. Like you just spending all the time that you don't have. And so like that would release a lot of us right there. It's just thinking about our time budget and saying like, okay, these are all the things I want to do today, but I only have 1,000 minutes. So like what needs to be done, right? So that's actually helped me a lot. But yeah, so she said I have an old soul. This is really uplifting. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Oh, and then somebody is on here spamming my chat. I'm not gonna put your thing up there because I don't know who this person is, but they want people to click on something, but I'm not gonna put that on there. But Gwendolyn is sending love, so I appreciate that. So anyway, okay, I went all off on a rant, y'all. We're about 40 minutes in. I'm not gonna get through all of these slides, but we're gonna talk about some of it. I think that we are in an era of just needing to observe ourselves. Like there's so many things that change all the time, right? Like right now, all you hear everywhere you look, everywhere you listen is about AI. There's so many things that like demand our attention, demand our like expertise, demand our emotions, demand us to be like locked in. And sometimes we're not really giving a lot of that of ourselves. We're just kind of like on to the next thing, on to the next thing. It's like we're just really focused on the future and we're not even really living in the moment. I actually feel like sometimes that's going to be to our detriment, both individually and as a society. Because I think about like how generations before us, they like built things, like they were known for things like the Industrial Revolution or the things that meant something historically, like, oh, these people marched with Dr. Martin Luther King, or these people were responsible for the advancement of paper goods or whatever. I'm just making this stuff up, but like they had something to show for their time. They had something to show for their community. They were there for each other. They were, they had style, they had fashion, they had different things, they had relationships, they built things. And I definitely had this thought in the back of my mind. Sometimes I won't necessarily call it a fear because I'm not fearful of it, but it dawns on me at times that like our generation or the generation who like is so into like the tech era and the digital era, I'm not sure what we'll have to show for it, right? Because like, imagine if all this tech stuff went away, or even, not even to get that detrimental. I just feel like, especially now with all the time we spend on social media and not even like educating ourselves or like connecting with people, like I think that's good, but like, what are we building, right? And so if you're building a community, if you know people, if you're pouring into people or they're pouring into you, and you're taking that and we're doing something with it together, like I think that's great. But like, one of the things that I see far too often is just like, people just come home and Netflix and chill, and they're not really reaching out to anybody. Nobody knows how they're doing. And then that kind of thing can have a real mental like impact. And so, I really am so passionate about us just kind of like building community, even just like, even if it's online, just like somebody, you're checking after somebody and somebody's checking after you, and you're connecting, and you have something that you're interested in and that's feeding you, and that you don't necessarily have to like build a building, or build a society, or build a thing like a nonprofit or nothing like that. But it's just like, just contributing to something, being a part of your local, baseball team, or whatever it is. It's just pouring into your neighbors, or going to your local church, or just something. I feel very strongly that like, we have to be a community, especially Black people. I'm just going to be out there with it, especially Black people. We have to take care of one another. And anyway, I kind of went on a rant with that, but I'm not mad at myself. Anyway, back to this. So, hey reality TV. She said, hey, Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn writes on it. Oh, yes, reality TV is my number one. Okay, so reality TV and beyond. If you're not following her, go and follow her. And hey, if you're not following Gwendolyn, I'm going to put her thing back up here too, because you need to go follow Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn's a beast. Yes, I'm putting everybody's stuff up on the page. All right, I'm only going for another 13 minutes because I could be here. Y'all know how long-winded I am. But yeah, so the if then shield. This is one of those things that help when decision fatigue can take over, where you're basically saying, if this happens, then I'll automatically do Y. If X happens, then I'll automatically do Y. And it reduces your cognitive load because you're like already locked and loaded with like a solution. And let me just go over, before I go back through these slides, I'm going to tell you the things that I set up in the beginning about like the things that I experience when I'm like, okay, here's the problems that I go through, and I want to go through my like solutions, and then we're already into the science of it, but I just want to go back to like the things that I experience and how I get around them. So, okay, here's what I was saying. When I don't want to do something, the number one thing that I do when I don't want to do something is I will visualize. Okay, this works in two ways. I'll visualize the best outcome, and then sometimes if I can't figure that out yet, I'll visualize the worst outcome and then flip it. That's the most important part, the flipping. Because when you don't want to do something, it's just like easy to like put it off. But when I think about, okay, if this were great, and if everybody walked away from this clapping for me, saying like, you did the best thing that could ever be done, right? Which is like highly unlikely, because a lot of times it's just stuff that you just have to get done in your life. But what would that look like? So I'll detail it out and be like, okay, let's say it's getting the oil change or something, right? It's just like, people are going to be so excited when I get this oil change. They're going to be clapping for me in my neighborhood when I pull back up in the neighborhood. Everybody's going to be outside of their home giving me applause, because they're going to be like, oh my God, you got that oil change like a champ. And right. And then I'll think to myself, if that doesn't motivate me, because that's never going to happen, I'll go to like the worst case scenario. Like, okay, if I don't get this oil change, then the car could break down, and they could break down on the side of the highway, and they could break down on the side of the highway on a rainy night, with some serial killers out. And I'm just taking it to a morbid place, but let's just take the serial killer out of it just so we can stay above grade here. But like on a rainy night where it's cold, and there's a raccoon, uh, conference on the side of the road, and I'll get attacked by raccoons, right? And it's just like, oh my God, I don't want that to happen. So let me just get my oil changed in the daylight on a sunny day, right? It's like, that's just an example of how crazy my mind gets, but it helps me to get through the stuff when I don't want to do it. Another thing that'll happen, but let me just take that from a real perspective of like, let's say it's a work project, because that's normally when I use that little trick, and I'll think about like all of the things that could happen or could go wrong. Here's why that works for me. Because when I think about the things that could go wrong, like let's say it's let's say it's like a meeting that I have to set up with all the folks that I meet with, or yeah. Oh, I gotta set up this meeting. It's like, I don't feel like setting up this meeting. Well, if you don't do it, then we won't meet. And if we don't meet, we won't be updated on what everybody's doing in their departments. If we don't know what everybody's doing in the departments, then, one thing could happen and the other department doesn't know about it, and it was conflicting. And then externally, it'll look like the company doesn't know what we're doing internally. And that's going to look crazy. And then eventually we'll lose credibility, and, they'll put our jobs in jeopardy. That's likely not going to happen, but what it does is it informs what I'm doing. So I'm like, okay, this is why I'm doing this, right? I'm putting together this meeting so we can stay in the loop and we can be informed, so that we are cognizant of like what's happening within our departments, and that we can go out and put up a positive like understanding of what we're all working on. And like, that's the reason we're meeting. And then so I go from not wanting to set the meeting up to having a purposeful meeting, right? So now I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be a great meeting. We're going to update everybody, and we're doing it because we're going to be a better program, and we're going to be a better company because we're all informed about what each other's doing. And it kind of like gets you excited and amped, right? So that's one thing, like little trick that I'll do. And then, another thing that I'll do is this can also be thought of as procrastination, but another thing that I'll do is I'll jot out like, okay, if this thing that I don't want to do takes, let's say 3 to 10 steps, what are the steps? And then they don't have to be in order. Sometimes I'll do like a little mind map with little arms reaching out from a little bubble. Sometimes I'll do it on index cards, and I'm like, okay, what are the 10 steps that gets me to completion? And a lot of times it's not actually 10, it's less than that, but that's just with anything. All right, so the other thing that I'll do is so that kind of leads into the next thing, which is going back to the why of doing something. So like, I'll just be so completely transparent. The thing that I normally don't want to do the most is working out. Just being real with y'all. Like, and it seems like it's so low stakes. It seems like it's so low stakes in the moment. It's just like, oh, just skip this workout, girl. It's cold this morning. Stay in this warm bed, right? And it's like, I'm getting out of that in a number of ways, but the thing that I have to think about is like the reason that I want to do it. I want to do it because I want to have a bank of completed workouts. Somebody told me this, you never regret a workout. You never leave a workout saying like, I wish I hadn't done that workout. Like, it's very unlikely. Maybe some people do, but I have never had that experience, to be honest with you. Even I've been sick and I've gone to work out and I felt better. So the thought is like, I want to be on the other side of like 100 workouts. I'm always like on some like round number. So I just always say like 10 or 100 or like even 3. But I want to be on the other side of like 100 days of working out. Even if I didn't work out every single day, it's like 100 days better from now, I will have done at least 75 workouts, and look at how I feel now. So necessarily even about my body composition, even though that would be a benefit, it would be a bonus. It's about like me, who I will have become after executing that thought of like having done it. Like, I am who I say I am. I've done 100 workouts. So I'm 100 days better, and I've done 70 workouts, and like, look at me. I'm Wonder Woman type of thing, right? So anyway, look, guys, I've gotten so off topic here. Maybe you didn't even realize it, but I realized that like I'm going off of these slides, but not really. So I've totally enjoyed this conversation, but I just want to bring up a couple of other comments that came through that were really good. So Gwendolyn says, I'm not going anywhere. I support all of you tech people, but I'll be following you. Yes. Follow Reality and Beyond. Gwendolyn, that's my sister. You probably already know that. And she said, get that oil change. My sister-in-law's engine froze. Hello. And that's really like a metaphor for the things that we want to do that we don't necessarily follow through with. It's like, look, if you don't just go ahead and do the thing, it's probably not that hard that you thought it was, right? But then if you don't do it, there's a consequence. And that's the real reason why you need to, like, obviously, if you feel like you need to do something, it's because it's a part of the identity that you've accepted. Like you've told yourself that this is important and that you want to follow through with it. And so it's probably important, you know, even though it might not be the most important thing in the world. It's like showing up for yourself and doing the thing that you said you would do is going to be the most mentally healthy structure for you to be convinced and to create some consistency and confidence for yourself. So, I mean, like, that's what I like to tell myself. But like what she just said there, get that oil change, for my example earlier, is like her sister-in-law's engine froze. I will take that sort of like it's a literal thing that happened, but I'm taking it metaphorically and I'm saying like, yeah, if we don't do the things that we know we need to do, there are consequences. And then dealing with those consequences end up being like multifold. Like it's like, you know, yeah, now you got to deal with the engine being froze and maybe having to like, you know, pay more money and get the car towed and all this stuff. But then also you didn't, like, you could have avoided that. And like, how do you feel about yourself now that you didn't do the thing and you could have avoided it, but you didn't? And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like we can eliminate all that by just showing up a little bit at a time, showing up every day, doing what we said we were going to do, and finding these little ways to just like pull through on who we say we are. I have this little thing that I say to myself, and it's based off, I think it's based off a Dr. Seuss book, but so introduction to my crazy. I have like a few alter egos, and one of them is Sam. Sam is the person that'll show up and like help you move furniture. That's the person inside of me that I'll be like, oh yeah, Sam's showing up today, right? Sam is there when you need to move or when you need to like do something that nobody wants to do. We're gonna go, you know, get our hands dirty type of thing. And sometimes I'll say that to myself, like, I am Sam. I am who I say I am. I am Sam. I am Sam, right? Especially when it's something like physical. So she actually shows up in my workouts too, because I'm like, I am Sam. But it's so weird because it's like something from some Dr. Seuss book, I'm sure. Oh, Sam I Am. I think it was like Cat in the Hat or maybe something like that. But yeah, sometimes you got to put that alter ego on and just go and do what you got to do. So anyway, with that, y'all, I'm so grateful y'all joined me for this live. It's going to be an ongoing live because there are at least 3 things that I didn't get to because I got so wrapped up in what I was talking about, but I refuse to make this some 2-hour live about how to do hard things. We're going to revisit this topic though, because I think it's something that we all just need a refresher on from time to time, even just a reminder that you're not the only person out there having to force yourself to do the things that nobody wants to do. But shout out to you if you're out there doing hard things for your family, for yourself, and you showing up for our community and making sure that things are getting done on your watch. We're so grateful for you and you're appreciated. So just want to say that, and thank you for joining in. And next time we'll be talking about other things that are productivity based. Also, join us on Thursday nights. My sister and I are coming back with our podcast. We might be changing the name up, so I won't even say, but this week so was it this Sunday? Last week and this week, we're talking about the Nature Boy documentary, and she put me on to some other sources. So we're going to be talking about that next week because we got a whole bunch of more information that we have to talk about with this Nature Boy topic. So if y'all haven't heard about that, Make sure y'all tune in on Thursday, y'all. We're going live on Thursday. We're going to talk about this. But once again, thank you so much for joining. I'm so grateful for your presence here. And if you're joining after we went live, let us know in the comments where you're from and what you think about tonight's topic. All right. See y'all later. Bye.